Hey Flosstube, it's Kim, aka Spartan Stitcher on Instagram, back again with another cross-stitching video. This is Flosstube number 62. Today is the 30th of March, 2020. It's been another week at home, and I got a lot of stitching done because it's been another week of being at home. So, let's talk about what I got done this week. I told you that because last week was my birthday, I was probably going to spend at least my birthday and probably more days on Museum Shelf. I did work on it on my birthday, which I'll show you, but I wanted to, since I'm working on it in April for full coverage phonetics around the world for Egypt, I figured I would go back to Half-Blood Prints and finish up the page in the park. So after my video on Monday, I told you I was still going to work on it some more. So I did 800 more tent stitches on Monday after filming. And then I worked on it again Friday and Saturday, the same week, to finish up the page and finish up the park. So here's Half-Blood Prints by Tilton Crafts. Artist is Daniel Kordick, and I was had to finish this page with Tom Riddle's arm and then go a little bit into the next page to finish the park. Again, this piece only has 35 colors, and so I got 8,010 stitches done in 6 days because it goes so quickly, and it was fun, and I really like how it turned out. I think his arm looks pretty darn cool. And there's a darker smudge in the next page. I don't know if I can get them both in there. So, nothing but background in this next page. But there's darker areas and lighter areas, so it's not completely boring. So that's what you see that I started right here. My 2020 goal on this piece was 2 pages, so I've got 1 page done, and we'll work on it sometime later this year and get another page done. But because I've been doing everything in parks, 8,000 pages, I'll get partly into the next page as well, since these pages are smaller than HAED pages. So that is Half-Blood Prints. That was my Great Smoky Mountains for the national parks. After that, I caught up on my Peppermint Purple 52 Weeks of Black Work sale. I had 4 weeks to catch up on. And Saturday after I finished Half-Blood Prints, I still had an evening left over, so I went ahead and I did more border work on this as well. So those 4 weeks on the third row are what I did, and I did 2 more rows of borders at the bottom. So I am set on borders for a few months, unless I just have spare time. And so I used the dark purple, the light orange, the light tan, and the green again. So still really enjoying this one, and it doesn't take much time. So it's a fun little piece to work on in between the bigger pieces. And I looked at it, I've only had 2 starts this year. And it was this piece and the zoo animals piece, or the safari animals piece for my friend. So I haven't really felt like starting anything. I've been pretty happy with working on my WIPs. Then I went back to Macintosh Mill, the Dimensions kit. So this half is all the way done, and it was time to start on this half. So what I did is I gridded my fabric, and I started on the border. It doesn't go all the way around. It only goes to here, to these pumpkins. and then started on the sky, which is all half stitch. So I did the equivalent of 1,000 more stitches. So there you go. There's your interrupted border that will have clouds and pumpkins, and there's also a sign. There's a sign that'll be right here. And then this went really quick. That's all 10 stitch or half stitch. So there you go. So that brings me to 2,000 stitches in work for the Glacier Park in Full Coverage Phonetics. So that park is halfway done because those are full stitches. So I already divided these so each counts as half. So over 2,000 on Glacier is halfway done. So I'll finish Glacier in April and continue working on this for Full Coverage Phonetics 20 and 20. I've got over equivalent of 6,000 stitches on this piece out of the 20,000 so far. Okay, and then on my birthday, I didn't do much stitching, which I'll talk about later, but I did put in 600 stitches on Supersized Color Expansion Museum Shelf, and I started this page right here with the Stegosaurus and the rocks, the T-Rex tail, and then we'll have a little bit of the Mastodon in there as well. So 610 stitches doesn't look like much, but you can kind of see where everything's going to be at. So I wish I need to plan ahead so I have something to rest this on. So here you see, there's the Stegosaurus' skull and skeleton coming down. The T-Rex tail is going to be here, and then up here is going to be where the Mastodon is on the book. So that is Museum Shelf. I always have, every time I show this, I have linked in my video about making my homemade PVC frame. Right now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the side tensioners. I got these from HAED, but if you're not in the US or you want to try other sellers, I have seen them on Etsy. And Carrie from Basic Nail Stamping here on YouTube and Instagram wanted a bit of a tutorial on how to use these. Michelle does have a video in the HAED Facebook group, but Carrie's not on Facebook. So just wanted to show you how I do this. So pretty much it's a piece of elastic with a couple little clamps on it. So you wrap it around either your wooden scroll frame, your PVC scroll frame, and you feed through the end so it's tight on there. You can stretch this and pull. And then the hook piece is completely separate. And depending on how much space you have between your sidebar and your fabric, you can set that hook on the different, like right above the different clamps. So I have mine, let me show you, it's a clamp with a hook. Doesn't really want to focus on it, but you can get the general idea. So I hook mine in first, just in between the two elastics, and then pull and clamp it to the fabric. And of course, when I'm not working on it, I can release the tension. Now, I have seen different kind of homemade versions of these. All you need is any kind of clamp like this and something attached to it that you can wrap around. A more permanent method, you could, take some either sewing thread or some DMC and wrap it around to provide tension this way. But then when you're not working on it, you can't take off the tension unless you wanted to redo that every single time. So, be creative. I know we're all stuck at home anyways, depending on what kind of hooks you might have at home, or you can order it. And personally, any packages I'm getting in the mail right now, I'm letting them sit where I won't touch them for about 4 days. So, because I don't know who's touched those packages. So anyways, I hope that explains how to use these. When you order them from HAED, you get 12. And the elastics come in a variety of colors. I just requested a blue or a green, I think. And so I got this navy blue color. But that's how they work. And so, like, if the fabric was further away, I could set the hook down here farther. So I hope that helps, Carrie. And anyone else that was curious about how the side tensioners work. You can see that my fabric is not completely drum tight on this. I mean, it's pretty decent. But that's just using Q-snap clamps on the PVC. That's the tension. And then just the little bit of the side pull is enough tension for me. When I work on this now, because I'm still on this side, I only attach the one side. But when I get to the middle, I'll attach both sides to pull that tension on the fabric the whole width of the piece. And then yesterday I picked up a non-full coverage piece that I haven't yet touched this year. Ann P. of Fiber Floss and Fiction podcast helped me pick out what to work on, because I had like an extra few days. I had yesterday and I didn't know if I was what I was gonna work on the last few days, because Sunday, Monday, Tuesday for the end of March. So she told me if I wasn't gonna work on Museum Shelf, then I should work on the Four Seasons sale by Modern Folk Embroidery. That was from 2018, and I started it last year. So this is on 28 count Monaco 1/1 that I dyed myself. So far I've only got over 550 in it from yesterday. I haven't stitched any today yet. Been doing schoolwork and other things. So yesterday I finished up a bit of this border, and then I did all of these motifs in here. Half a reindeer, so snowflakes, a robin, a heart, and half a reindeer is what I've done so far. This is the width of the January installment, and because it was a sale, there's I think it was like 3 pages wide, so I have to do half of February to finish up winter, because my 2020 goal is just to do a quarter of the design, just to do winter. So I'm going to have to access a few different months installments to get all of winter done, but that's all right. So I will continue to work on this today and tomorrow, and then come April 1st, I will work on other things. So this is using DMC Ecru that I have from Miss Sue, the 94-year-old woman who I got her stash. So, and I really love how that Rit dye, that deep blue, came out on the Monaco. So that's what I've worked on so far. So for, as I said, this next week I'll do 2 more days on Four Seasons. I will, come April 1st, Brittany from Ingleside Imaginarium will release the April Familiar, which I believe, based on the hints, she always gives us a hint about it a week and a half before the month starts, and I think it's going to be a toad. So we'll sew up a toad, or stitch up a toad on the Familiar sale, and more on Museum Shelf. Also in April, as I told you, for the Easter egg weekend in Full Coverage Fanatics, I'll work on Trick or Treat, which I might work on at other points during the month as well. And I'm thinking, because I worked on 4 full coverage last month, compared to I only touched 3 in January and February. So Museum Shelf, Macintosh Mill, Trick or Treat, at least for that weekend. And if I pull out a 4th, I'm thinking it's going to be Beauty and the Beast. I haven't worked on it this year, so we'll get some stitches into that one. Do a park's worth and see how close that takes me to my goal on that one. So those are my plans. As far as full coverage stitching totals for the month, since I'm working on non-full coverage for the rest of the month, I can tell you that I have 11,200 full coverage stitches for the month. So year to date, that brings me over 33,000 stitches. Since I have finished, let's see, Grand Canyon on Oh Baby this past month, in March, and Great Smoky Mountains for Half-Blood Prince. So for the national parks, you have to equal them, divide them out equally across the months. That's two and a third parks per month. So I went ahead and I added my little passport stickers. So I now have almost 2 full pages of stickers. Those are the first 4, and I always put in what piece I earned them on and the dates that I worked on them. And you'll see they're not in order because it's just how I assign my WIPs to the pieces. So that is 7 parks so far out of 25. Okay. Now an update on my husband, and then we'll do Air Force story. So that is all the stitching content. If that's all you're interested in, we'll see you next week. Update on my husband. I woke up the morning of my birthday with good news and bad news. Really good news and really bad news. Put it that way. My husband had left me a message that there has been a no stop movement order for 60 days that the Secretary of Defense issued. It was later on the 25th, but I didn't hear about it until I woke up on my birthday. So that will mean that my husband will be extended at least a month for his deployment because there's no movement. No one can leave or come in from deployments. So we don't know yet when he'll come home, and we probably won't know until it just happens. So, okay, we just gotta keep rolling with the punches. Flexibility is the key to air power is one of the Air Force mottos, and yeah, you just go with it. I knew it was most likely going to happen, so the stop movement order was just kind of the official news that he was going to be extended. So that was tough. The girls kind of know that he's not going to come home, but it's hard to explain to them that we don't know when the quarantines are going to be over and when we'll be able to, do things. So everything's kind of up in the air. We just do one day at a time. The really good news is that my husband got his promotion recommendation form back. Every year, once you're eligible for promotion, the wing commander at your base writes up a promotion recommendation form, either definitely promote, or do not promote. And there's only room on this form for 6 bullets, 6 lines of information. 4 of those lines of information are pulled directly from your performance reports that happen every year or every time you have a supervisor change or every time you change jobs. Word for word, those bullets come straight out of your performance reports. The wing commander cannot change them. He has 2 lines to tell the people who sit on the promotion board what he thinks about that person and whether he recommends to promote them or not. So there's an area where you check mark either definitely promote, or do not promote. And then he's got 2 lines to say what he wants. There's always a stratification. By that, stratification as in like a ranking. Even on performance reports, your squadron commander, your group commander will say number 1 of however many maintenance officers, or number 1 of however many captains, whatever, captains on the base, doesn't matter. So depending on who it comes from, the higher stratification, of course, has more weight. And for the check marks, the definitely promote, or do not promote, the wing commander can only check definitely promote on like 1 or 2 people out of the entire base. But then you know, he can put things in the bullets. He can still say definitely promote in the bullets, even though it might be checkmarked promote, to kind of say I didn't have enough, but this guy I still want. And that's what my husbands have said previously. But he was surprised in that he got a definitely promote checkmark and a #1 stratification from the wing commander here in North Dakota. And it is amazing. It's pretty much a guarantee that he's going to be selected for lieutenant colonel. But we don't know when that's going to be because the promotion boards are not essential right now. You can't have a bunch of people meeting in a room to review records to see who's going to be promoted. So promotion boards have been delayed, but at the same time, there's this really good news that like 99% sure he's going to be selected for promotion when we thought that all his chances were gone. So it was a tough day on my birthday. He's not coming home for at least another, an additional month, but he got a DP. So that's one reason why I didn't stitch much on my birthday, is I was kind of in emotional turmoil. I didn't know what to feel. So let's talk about Air Force story. I told you last week, the last little bit of what my experience was at Seymour Johnson before we PCS'd, permanent change of station. And we next went to Luke Air Force Base in Phoenix. Now, my husband, he was still a maintenance officer at the time. And at Luke, he was assigned to MOS. So, and he'd never been in an MOS because I was in MOS at Seymour. So it was time for him to learn the maintenance from the MOS perspective. So he was in MOS, and I knew before I left what my assignment was going to be. And I've shown you guys this a couple different weeks and never really explained what this FTD stood for at the bottom. And FTD stands for Field Training Detachment. It is a part, it's included, these are maintainers, but it's not in the direct chain of command from the maintenance group. And there's a reason for that. Field Training Detachment, their job is maintenance training. Training the maintainers that are in these 3 squadrons. So the flight line guys and the 2 backstop squadrons. So they come into these squadrons as airmen, and as they get promoted and as they learn more maintenance skills, they go to the FTD for different maintenance courses so they can rise up in their maintenance skills as well. These FTDs across the Air Force, it's a detachment of a squadron, and all these detachments belong to 2 squadrons at Shepherd Air Force Base in Wichita Falls, Texas. So, part of Shepherd Air Force Base is the 982nd Training Group, which has 3 squadrons. MXS, again, is kind of behind the scenes. There's no actual maintenance that happens in these squadrons. There's no airplanes that these guys are actually maintaining and flying at Shepherd Air Force Base. Not in this group anyways. So you have the 372nd Training Squadron and the 373rd Training Squadron. And very few people actually work in those squadrons at Shepherd, because there are 44 detachments split across these 2 squadrons. And this group, the entire group, includes over 1,200 people. But I'd say there's probably less than 200 of them actually at Shepherd. The rest of them are at the detachments at all different Air Force bases, Air Force wide. Not just stateside, but also our bases that we have in Europe and other places like that. And so 372nd Training Squadron Detachment 12 is Luke Air Force Base. The detachment that I was in charge of. Now, all these detachments, not every single one has an officer assigned to it. They all have, master sergeants or senior master sergeants, depending on the size of the detachment. And if that detachment also has what we call mission ready airmen, which I will explain later. So 372 TRS Detachment 12 is the largest fighter field training detachment in the Air Force. So for fighter aircraft, the largest one in the Air Force. At Luke Air Force Base, where they have F-16s, not F-15Es. F-16. So still a fighter, has the same engine in it, but completely different airplane than what I was familiar with at Luke Air Force Base. Or what I was familiar with at Seymour than what's at Luke. So, let's see, where can I go? So at Shepherd is actually the largest, most diverse air education and training base. So it's all about training at Shepherd. They do have operational airplanes, but they also have a flight line with airplanes that don't fly, that haven't flown in years and years and years and years, but are used for training purposes, because you don't want a brand new airman learning how to fix an airplane, launch an airplane straight out of the classroom. So first they're going to familiarize themselves with airplanes that are not operational. And that's part of the mission ready airmen part that I'll talk about later. So at Shepherd, they train maintainers, they train comptrollers. So comptrollers are your like accountants, your money folks, transportation folks, and intel at Shepherd Air Force Base. So there's lots of training schools going on. And so this 982nd training group, this is only for the field training detachments. There's another training group that teaches the mission ready airmen before they come to us. So they start first at Shepherd on in operational airplanes and learn theory and get familiar with, touching the airplane where nothing's going to hurt them before they come to the operational bases. Now at Luke Air Force Base, it is a combat base. So, but there's also training squadrons. So just like at Shepherd, or just like at Seymour, where you had 2 training squadrons training F-15E aircrew, and you had 2 F-15E combat squadrons, you had the same thing at Luke. So they're training aircrew as well as the maintainers. And so where was I going with this? So there's lots of training going on. I forgot how many. There's close to 200 F-16s at Luke, I believe. I didn't get out to the flight line very much at all because, so in FTD, the best way I can describe it is I was the principal of a school for the most part, if you picture it that way. The people who worked for me were the instructors, the teachers. But I was also in charge if students got in trouble. So being as that I had, 49 instructors and 3 MTLs, which I'll explain later, under my supervision, I had an $80,000 budget for the year, and we taught 41 courses over 11 career fields. So crew chiefs, avionics, E&E, which is electrical engineering, engines, fuels, egress. So all of these career fields that I talked about here, we had 41 different courses in addition to the MRA program, the Mission Ready Airman program. So we taught around 2,500 students annually came through the schoolhouse. We had 2 training buildings and 1 dormitory for the Mission Ready Airmen. And in the training buildings, mostly so we had FTD side and MRA where they each had their own building. Some of the crew chief, because the mission ready airmen are all crew chiefs, some of the crew chief courses for the folks that were already at Luke in the squadrons, the crew chief courses were also in the MRA building. So all the crew chiefs had one building, and then everything else was in the other FTD building. So 3 buildings that we were in charge of, that we had to maintain, and any big problems with the buildings, of course we talked to the civil engineering squadron. Money we had to spend to upkeep the classrooms. We had 24 trainers, mostly in the main FTD building. By trainers I mean things to teach the students in those courses that weren't actual airplanes, but like worked like airplanes. So you had in the egress classroom, you had like a mini cockpit. Like if you could cut the airplane and just take the section of the cockpit out, we had that, where they could practice taking the ejection seat in and out and do different things with the ejection seat within the cockpit, or take the seat out and work on it. We had an engine trainer. The fuels trainer and the avionics trainers were more computer based, so you didn't have the things actually there, but you had like circuit board panels and stuff where everything was connected and could work through it that way. So I was in charge of the instructors. They had their own programs to keep the schoolhouse running. But then also for the mission ready airmen that had only been in the Air Force like 6 months. These are brand new airmen who are still under direct, like constant supervision all the time. They're not able to go anywhere unsupervised. They were the students that I was worried about. I didn't really have to worry about the students that were already stationed at Luke. They were only coming in to go from like a mid-level to a more experienced maintainer. So that's what the next few weeks and months of stories will be about, is being detachment commander at Luke Air Force Base, FTD and MRA. All right, guys, have a good week. Stay calm and stitch. We'll see you later. Bye.